But in 1974, my wife and I took a tour and went to the Soviet Union. And we spent 22 days there touring their museums and battlefields. And every town, city, and village that we visited had museums like this. The heroes' uniforms on display, and their museums were wall-to-wall people. All they thought about at that time, under the communists, was the revolution and or the Great Patriotic War, which was World War II. And I was so amazed, you know, what they had there, because everything you had when you were in the military, the government owns it. If you get a high order or decoration of medal, the government owns it. When you die, they come and get it. So I thought, there's nothing like this in the United States, and I wanted to do it for Michigan. So I travel all over the country, bringing back to Michigan what belongs here. And I've been to California to bring back William Zeiderveld's uniform. He's the only man to get the Medal of Honor in Veracruz, Mexico in 1914. Again, I was the only one doing it at the time, and for 7 years, I worked without letting anybody know what I was doing. We now have the largest collection of anything like this in the United States.
So talk about setting up in Frankenmuth.
Yes.
I mean, you spent, sounds like the majority of your life in the Detroit area, but you set
Yes.
up in Frankenmuth. How did that develop?
Well, the wife and I were looking for a place to bring these artifacts, you know, looking for a place to set up a museum. And I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but Frankenmuth is the #1 tourist attraction in the state of Michigan. We get 3 million visitors a year come here. And number 2, it's pretty well centrally located in the Lower Peninsula. I mean, you're maybe 3.5 hours up to the bridge, an hour and a half to Detroit, with 2 hours to each side of the state. And most important, and number 3, is 80% of the people that come here are from Michigan. So where else for a museum for Michigan heroes? Well, we contracted with Lou Ide and Construction Company, and we got, we rented the Schoolhouse Square lower level. People say basement, but I like to call it lower level. Basement has a different connotation. And I was so naive, I was still on the department in Royal Oak, which is 83.3 miles from here. Well, I signed a 3-year lease at $1,500 a month rent, with utilities was close to $2,000 a month. The first 2 years we were in Franklin, my wife and I lost $54,000 out of our savings, turning it into a museum and paying the rent. We'll never get that back because we knew we had to get out of there. We couldn't just keep paying rent for something we didn't own. And in Frankenmuth, this community has really supported this museum.
Yeah, I think what's so unique and what's pointed out, you know, on your website, and what you discussed about during sort of as we walked around and taken a look at many of the exhibits, is it's about the people.
Right.
It's not necessarily about the stuff, but it's the people.
Well, that's what's unique about the museum. It's not a war museum.
Right.
We hold weapons to a minimum. It's very personal in that each showcase contains the actual uniform that individual wore and many personal items. Again, we don't put his former letters and things in there, but there's the uniform he wore, his decorations, and we have at least 300 to 350 words on his story, when he went in, what he did, and so forth. And when you read these stories, it makes you appreciate that individual all the more.